All right, in this video, I'm going to break down the 76ers getting swept by the Celtics, a little bit about the 76ers dumpster fire, the next round against the Raptors, and some of the other interesting stuff that's happening in the first round of the NBA playoffs. So let's check it out. First, obviously, I want to talk about the Celtics. I really meant to do this video after game 3, but the night before I had had 2 beers, and so I was hungover the next day. My alcohol tolerance is a crazy thing. I get a hangover just from thinking about alcohol. In fact, a couple weeks ago, my girlfriend went out drinking and I was at home and I got the hangover. I had one of the worst headaches I've had in a decade. I was joking with my friends at work about this, and one of my colleagues said that I am the John Coffey of hangovers, which I thought was amazing. So yeah, go out, drink, have fun, and I'll be at home just puking up bees. But anyways, the Celtics have just swept the 76ers. It wasn't always pretty. Game 3 was hard to watch. Game 4, we didn't finish strong. And of course, Philly isn't the same without their best player, Simmons, which I'll get into a little bit later. But you have to give the Celtics credit for playing 4 games and winning 4 games and sweeping the 76ers. That's really impressive. After game 2, I was freaking out about Jason Tatum. I was ready to call him a top 10 NBA player and fight anybody who disagreed with me. I have relaxed a little bit since then, although I do still think that Jason Tatum is a top 15 guy in the NBA. I just don't think there's that many guys that are legitimate elite two-way players, and Tatum is one of them. Game 3 was ugly. Brett Brown said before the game that they needed to play with a respectful anger, that they don't have a guy in the locker room that will kick over benches and get people fired up. And I just remember thinking, that was Jimmy Butler. You had Jimmy Butler and you traded him. So that was kind of funny. Game 3 was the best that Kemba Walker has looked in probably 6 months. He was fantastic. I don't know if he's 100%, but he looked darn close. And, I mean, when he's making defensive plays, when he's running around defensively, disrupting things, you know he's feeling really, really good. Grant Williams got some good minutes in Game 3 as well. Grant Williams is this guy that he's really nice, and you want to believe in him. But, you know, everybody always says, oh, Grant Williams is the guy that does things that don't show up in the box score. Well, of course he does those things, because he's also the guy that doesn't do things that show up in the box score. So, I mean, if you want to be in the NBA, you better do something. But in this game, Grant Williams actually hit a couple of three-pointers, and that is a huge step. If he can start making threes, then he becomes very much playable, because he is a really smart basketball player. He sets good screens, and he has a lot of defensive versatility. So it was nice to see him have a solid game in Game 3. I also saw some stuff before Game 3 about Philly fans talking about Matisse Thybulle shutting down Jason Tatum, and I just think this stuff is so funny. Like, Tybulle's not shutting down Tatum. Nobody in the NBA is shutting down Tatum. The only time Tatum gets shut down is when he has an off shooting night, which happens occasionally. There's nobody in the NBA that's shutting down Jason Tatum. I'm sorry, Thybulle. I mean, Thybulle is a great defender, and I actually really, really like him as a player. But he's not shutting down Jason Tatum. Not happening. Game 4, I noticed they kept referring to Embiid as a 7-foot, 250-pound player. And I just was thinking, 250 pounds? Look at him. He's like 400 pounds at least. I mean, the guy is enormous and slow and enormous. There's no way he's 250 pounds. Not buying it. Also, Al Horford, who always said he wasn't a 5 and wanted to play the 4, is playing the 4 now, and it's not pretty. Seeing him flex after every 2-point basket is really sad. I mean, the dude's doing like backflips with dabs every time he hits a free throw, and it's not a good look. He's been really, really bad. He has honestly been bad all year with the Sixers, just not – there are lots of statistics that show that he does not fit with Joel Embiid, but he's been really bad in these playoffs. I think he was averaging 5 points per game coming into game 4, which is really bad. And then Tobias Harris making like $36 million a year. He made his first three-pointer in this game. He was 0 for 10 before he made his first 3 in game 4. Dude is supposed to be like second or third banana on Philly, and he's being paid as a first banana. But really, when you watch him play, he looks like a 5th banana. So that was my potassium breakdown. Rob Williams, a guy I really wanted to see get minutes in this series because Tice was really struggling in his matchup against Joel Embiid. He got like 30 seconds in this game. Brad Stevens put him in, and he proceeded to catch the ball underneath the basket and then try to throw it out for a three-pointer and turned it over when he could have just dunked it and then got yanked right out of the game. Bye-bye, Williams. So maybe next year. Maybe he'll be ready next year. It's really nice to see Kemba Walker playing clutch basketball again. You have to go all the way back to his days at UConn to remember that Kemba was actually a really good finisher and a really good player under pressure. He's now won 4 games in the playoffs with the Celtics, which is 1 game more than he won in his entire career in Charlotte, which is it's just really sad to think of a guy that's this good in big games never getting the opportunity to shine. So I've been really just happy for him to finally be in an environment where he belongs, which is important basketball. Are you or a friend a Sixers fan and contemplating suicide? Just because you have all the reasons to do it doesn't mean you should. Instead, call one of our professionals at 1-800-888-7676. It's Philly rant time. Having your 2 best players not fit together is not a good look. And then on top of that, having Tobias Harris and Al Horford both making $30 million a year. Yikes. I'm not even going to go into watching Tatum stunting all over Philly when Fultz is now in Orlando, because that's almost like too deep. But seriously, Horford and Harris were really, really bad in these playoffs, and those contracts are yuck, especially Tobias, because it's just so much money over so many years. At least with Horford, the contract's a little bit shorter, so it's going to be over quicker. But that Harris one is going to be I'm also just not convinced that Embiid is as good as people expect him to be. People just keep saying he's got to dominate in the paint. He's got to dominate in the paint. He does. I mean, what do you need Embiid to do? Score 50 in the paint to be dominating? He does dominate the paint. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because he also coughs the ball up. He can't make a good pass to save his life. He's like Carmelo, but as a center. He stops the ball. He kills the offense. He'll probably get you 2 points. But it's not enough. And I'm just not convinced that Embiid is the guy. If I were the 76ers, I would trade Embiid. First of all, I'd fire Brett Brown. Great guy. Great guy. Horrible coach. When does being a good guy start becoming like a qualifier to be an NBA coach? Yeah, we get it. He's really nice. He's polite in interviews. He's a horrible coach. He doesn't adjust his game plans at all. He's stuck as a Spurs assistant from 15 years ago, he just doesn't understand basketball today. And he has not been able to maximize the talent on that team at all. So first, Brett Brown needs to go. Second, trade Embiid, maybe for Bradley Beal, something like that. Build your whole team around Simmons. Simmons is just a better player than Embiid. He's a better defender, and he has a more modern skill set. And unlike Embiid, who puts up monster stats but never wins anything, Simmons at least makes the players around him better. So if I were Philly, get rid of Embiid, build around Simmons, basically just copy the Bucks template, just like Giannis. Just make like Simmons Giannis, give him the ball, let him run full court all the time, get a bunch of shooters around him, let him play awesome defense. And yeah, that's the best you can do, I think. Outside of that, Philly fans, please don't jump unless it's into a pool. So the Raptors just swept the Nets. They scored 100 bench points in game 4, which has never been done. I mean, the Nets really stink, but damn, that team is good. And I am legitimately scared of Toronto in round 2. I'm worried about their deep bench. I'm worried about Lowry and Van Fleet giving us all kinds of trouble because despite Marcus Smart being a fantastic defender, he really does defend bigger, slower players better. Yeah, I mean, I'm still taking the Celtics in 7 in round 2 over the Raptors, but that's only because I love the Celtics and I think we're playing really well. I'm not that confident. And honestly, I think the Celtics should be considered an underdog going into round 2. So that's it for the Celtics stuff and me trashing on the poor 76ers, piling on. Let's go around the NBA and just check up on some of these other series. Utah is up 3-1 on Denver. Utah has been outstanding. This last game was wild. You look at the box score, and Joe Ingles had 0 points for Utah. Jamal Murray scored 50, and Jokic had 30 for Denver, and they still lost. That's not a good sign. I guess this was the only postseason game ever where a player on each team had 45-plus points. I thought I saw that statistic, as Mitchell also dropped 50. Just a crazy, crazy game. Conley has come back from injury and is playing really well, and that's helped them. But Donovan Mitchell has been unbelievable. The Mavs and Clippers is now tied 2-2 because Luka is incredible. Luka Doncic is arguably the best player in the NBA right now. He's just putting up monster stat lines and winning games. He's basically a better version of James Harden. He's not quite as accomplished a scorer yet, but he has similar moves. He can get to the line. He's a better defender, and people actually like playing with him, which turns out that makes a difference. Side note, I hate the Clippers. I hope they lose. I think it's great that they're losing to the Mavericks right now. I do not like teams like the Lakers and the Clippers and the Heat that are artificially assembled. I hate it. Anthony Davis clowned his way out of New Orleans. I hope the Lakers lose. And Kawhi said he wouldn't come to the Clippers without Paul George. How's that working for you, Kawhi? You happy? You happy you got Paul George in there to shoot 4 for 20 every game? Look, I don't want to be the straw that breaks the mammal's back, but Paul George looks absolutely awful in these playoffs, and this is not the first time. I just love watching these BS buddy cop teams fall flat on their face. Go Mavericks. As long as they're not playing the Celtics, I'm a huge Mavs fan. Lakers are up 2-1 on Portland. Houston is up 2-1 on OKC. OKC was barely able to scrape a win in that last game to hopefully make this a series, but Houston has honestly looked really, really good. The Bucks are up 2-1 on Orlando. So after that weird first game, they're going to handle their business. That being said, Miami is up 3-0 on Indy. They're going to be looking for a sweep, and Miami looks awesome. And I think that Miami has as good a chance as anybody in the NBA to beat the Bucks in the second round. That to me is a really, really interesting series. So yeah, I think that's just about it. I've been dying to just get out some of these thoughts about the Celtics and Luka and Donovan Mitchell. I think this bubble playoff stuff has been fantastic. Admittedly, I'm a bit biased. I'm a fan. But if you're watching this video and you want to talk some NBA with me, please drop something in the comments. I'd love to have a chat with other NBA fans about what's going on. Do you think I'm crazy for thinking Tatum is a top 15 player? I would love for you to drop 15 players that you think are better right now. I'm not talking about Curry and Durant and dudes that are injured, Klay Thompson. I want to know 15 dudes right now that are better than Jason Tatum. And other than that, I'll probably do another one of these midway through round 2 when we're playing the Raptors. So I'll see you next time on Rants and Reviews.